Actually JFDM.
Actually JFDM here. So our second session of Draw Steel just ended, and the group overcame the dragon fight. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. We'll get into that here on this particular episode of the campaign diary for the foray into Draw Steel. So things started at the edge of this forest where these like thorn and bark statues were in these battle poses. They're like pointing like these type faces. They're investigating, the null has like a psionic mind ability. I wasn't sure if these things were dead or just like trapped. I hadn't made a decision on that, so I rolled it in the moment, and it turned out that they were dead. A psionic telepathic chat with them. Eventually the dragon gets wind of them and comes in and springs the attack. It was a pretty crazy fight. The dragon has a lot of like area control. Its sort of domain effect is to do damage when things move around, and the game is very movement oriented, so it's a real hampering on the characters to not be able to like move and stuff. Luckily they navigated it all. They figured it out. There was a big moment where the troubadour rolled a crit, and so did maximum damage with one of his big drama abilities, and then got to take another action and rolled another crit, and so got to take another action and did a big chunk of damage on this dragon. It seemed like the dragon was wearing them down, and then this sort of brought it right back to the point where they were super close to now defeating the dragon. And only a couple of player turns later, the dragon did go down. But it was a good fight, and they loved the idea that this was their first fight, and they were fighting a dragon. I think someone straight up, said like, "Yeah, eat your heart out 5e" or something along that line, or "Eat your heart out D&D." I'm sure a DM could make a dragon that a level 1 party could fight at. That is obviously within the realm of possibility, but it is not typical. Typically you're fighting goblins, kobolds, which you could do in this game too. That's also within the realm of possibility, but they liked that I went with that decision. When I look back at it, the stat block there's a lot going on with it, and my first fight to DM, on one hand it was nice only having one creature to run, but on the other hand there was a lot of effects and a lot of little minutia with rules and stuff that, had I been more familiar with the system first, or experienced a couple of fights outside of the ones I did like a year ago when I ran the initial packet adventure playtest, it probably would have gone a little smoother, at least on my end. But everyone seemed to enjoy it. After the fight with the dragon, they did the normal player thing. They wanted to try and get its claws and its teeth keep trophies. They were doing some of that, and they were also sort of talking about was this what was causing the problems? Should we get proof for this and go back and things like that? But one of the players smartly brought up, this dragon doesn't seem to have anything to do with shadows, so I don't think we've solved the full problem. So they're like, okay, yeah, that's a good point. So they keep heading to Broads, not like, oh yeah, everything's fine, we did it, la la la. They're like, okay, there's more to figure out here, which was good. And they're approached by this dog, which is acting like a dog, but no longer looks like a dog. It has the general shapes and proportions of a dog. But I likened it because I know that most of the group is like wargamers, played this game or familiar with it, that it sort of had like Legion of Everblight aesthetics, where it doesn't really have eyes or a nose. It's just sort of like these chitinous plates that run all the way down the back of the head, down the back. It's like looking at you as though it has eyes, and it runs up to them, and it's got this oily black fur that looks like a night sky with stars in it. Immediately they're like, oh, here boy, like, oh, want to pet the puppers, right? Which is good. And it's acting like a dog, like, oh yeah, come over here, oh yeah, I want the pets. And it's like doing the thing where a dog will do, or like kind of looks at you, barks, and then like runs 2 steps in this direction, then turns around and barks at you again, and does it like follow me, hey, follow me. And so they picked up on that, and they go follow this dog, which goes to a corpse near a copse of trees. And I made sure to the other place that was like a tree line, like a forest, this is like a copse. It's like 8 to 10 trees, and in this general area, it's not like a whole big growth thing. So they weren't like immediately suspicious like another forest. And so this dog is like nuzzling at this corpse and like making whining noises and stuff. And so they're looking at it like, oh, it's an elf. Okay. Sort of searched around on it and found its icon, which is a harp with 2 strings, which is the symbol of the coursers, which is an element of the world of Orden. Coursers usually operate in pairs of 2. And one of the things that the Baron of Anovia told them was that a pair of coursers came to check this out and they hadn't been heard from. So now they found one of the coursers. What hasn't really been put together yet, maybe it will, maybe it won't, depending on how things go, was the courser's dog. It was their dog that has been changed and shifted. As they're sort of looking at this corpse, I had the dog sort of like have its hackles go up and start like growling. And they're like, oh, is it growling at us? I was like, no, it's growling at something else. And that was when the Shadow Elves attacked. And that was where the session ended. The dragon combat definitely took quite a while. I mean, it was all of our first combat, so we were doing a lot of looking up and stuff. I could see the combat taking a lot less time in the future, given that once we become more familiar with how it goes and we are more familiar with our abilities and things like that, things will probably flow a lot smoother. In this particular case, we were going slow, but no one was seemed like they were feeling like it was dragging. It's just the nature of being new at something, right? Going forward, going into the next session, there's going to be a fight with some Shadow Elves, and now there's going to be a different type of combat. Like that combat was a solo. It has villain actions. It takes 2 turns. Now it's just mass enemies, which a lot of them are minions. So the hero should get that experience of being able to like cut through multiple enemies in one go and really have a hopefully a fun time with that, while also still being challenged, of course. But this is the Shadow Elves are sort of the big antagonists of this particular arc or this adventure, and so this is their first contact with Shadow Elves. Yeah, we'll see where it all ends up going. Looking forward to the next session, just like I was looking forward to this one. So in a week, we'll be back and fighting some Shadow Elves. Glad you tuned in to hear about some Draw Steel, and we'll see you on the next one.